Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our final family orientation Zoom session of the summer. Lots of participants joining, so that's awesome. We're happy to have you with us tonight. This is a residential life session, so family members of students who will be living on campus this year are with us tonight. While we're waiting for a few extra people to join, if you don't mind throwing in the chat, maybe let us know where your student is living and whether they're here already, or if not, when they're moving in. Might be good, some good info to know. Thank you, Diane and Mary. You see your info about McNulty and South next week. Somebody's quarantining already, not alone. West Hall. It's a different kind of year, definitely. A lot of students are here already. Others are getting ready to make the trek to Providence. All right, I think we have pretty much our audience, at least to start, so we'll officially get things going here. If by some chance you were with us back on, I think it was July 15th, you might recognize one of our speakers tonight, Caitlin Cotting, and she'll say hello in a minute. But if you were with us that night and you're back tonight, I give you credit because that was a long one. It was a marathon session, and we're happy to have you back. So just like we've done the past few weeks, if you have questions related to residential life, we're going to ask you to write them in the Q&A. Kara, who you can't see right now, is behind the scenes and will be monitoring the chat. We are doing our best to not answer the same question multiple times. That will help us keep this to an hour or less tonight. So Kara might either address that in the chat. She also might be posting things like websites and email addresses and things like that. So keep an eye in the chat and feel free to communicate amongst yourselves in the chat. So with that, like I said, Caitlin's back. I'm going to ask her first to say hello, give another quick intro for anyone who might not have been with us back in July.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Caitlin Cotting. I serve as our Assistant Director of Residential Life. So my job is to kind of oversee the day-to-day operation of the staff, and I supervise our professional staff and our graduate staff that live and work in our halls. And I'm also responsible for the training and the hiring of all of our employees in our department.
Thank you. And it certainly is a big department, lots of employees over there. So that's a big, super important job on campus. We also are super happy to have a student with us again tonight. This is not the same individual that was with us in July, but I'm going to let Delilah say hello and tell you a little bit about herself.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Delilah Torres. I am a transfer junior/senior here at JWU. I also work as an orientation leader for new student orientation. My major is culinary arts, and I am from Jersey City, New Jersey. Honestly, working as an orientation leader, not only I have the opportunity to lead the students, but also get an opportunity to connect and, offer enough help and support for everyone. And honestly, living on campus is such a fun time. You get to meet everybody. It's just really fun when you connect with everyone, and you also get to learn about yourself as well. And I think it's really awesome.
Thank you, Delilah. And she's been doing a great job with orientation this summer, and she mentioned her major. So if you have a student who's coming in the College of Culinary Arts, now called the College of Food Innovation and Technology, they may have had Delilah as their orientation team leader. All right, so I do see some questions coming in the Q&A, so we're going to get going right away. And the first question is from Susan about students who are already here. When can they expect to hear from their RAs?
Yeah, so students started arriving last Tuesday. So we had a couple students last Tuesday and Wednesday, and then another group this Sunday and Monday. They should have already received communication via email about meals, about staying connected, just general reminders. On Monday, all of our halls had a virtual floor meeting via Zoom, kind of like this. So that was a first opportunity to visibly see your RA and your staff if your student hadn't already seen them, maybe when they checked in. And then RAs are going to be doing programs this week and next week, is for those students that are already here. So I know like 2 buildings that I work with are going door to door tonight just to knock on doors and check in and see how people are doing. But every building is doing something a little different.
And Caitlin, I'm making sure I'm not muted. If the student needs their RA, are they free to reach out to them? They don't have to wait for the RA to come to them.
Yeah, so there are RAs in every building, pretty much on every floor. They all have a very distinct door sign on their door, and it says resident assistant and residential life. So even if you don't know them, you can find their door pretty easily. Knock. There is always somebody on call. So there's RAs that hold an emergency cell phone. So even if it's midnight and they need help, they can call campus safety or call the front desk, and the RA will be there to help them. So there's somebody there around. They're kind of just hanging out. So I'm sure they would like someone to talk to. So.
All right. And so Susan, hopefully that helps you. If your son or your student is not hearing from their RA, just encourage him to knock on the door and make a connection there and make sure that they have the right communication information. So, all right. Jim, I see your question about ID cards and meal swipes. That yes, the ID card would be needed once students are going into the dining halls to to have their meals. I'm not sure what's happening right now. Do you know if they're swiping while they're getting meals in the quarantine?
I think they're writing down or at least recording the J number in terms of quarantine meals. But for this was a new experience for us this year. Students could send in their photos, and then IDs are printed and they're actually being delivered to the halls. So if your student has not submitted their photo yet, be best to do it as soon as possible. For example, we had students that showed up last week for quarantine that didn't have an ID. So it's difficult to come and go from the halls when they need to get some fresh air. So if your student hasn't done it already, I remind them to submit their photo.
Okay. And if you have questions specifically about dining and how the whole swipes and things like that work, maybe Kara, you could put the phone number for campus dining in the chat. That would be helpful for folks to have that as well. So Carol, interesting question about hamsters. Mentions Harborside. I don't know if you mean Harbor View or a specific building, but can they bring a hamster, and what type of documentation is needed for that pet?
Yeah, so we have several communities on campus that we would call pet and animal friendly. So any student that lives in the first floor of Snowden, we have some spaces in our apartment communities for our upperclassmen students. And then the ground floor of Harborview are pet and animal friendly. And so as long as your student submits an application and gives us their, if it was a dog, their registration information, whatever tests they've had done or shots, you can bring your pet. Other buildings might have a pet in it if a student has an emotional support animal. So I know there's like a chinchilla in another building somewhere. So there are some other pets outside of those areas as well. But in general, just Harborview and Snowden for our first year areas that are kind of general pet friendly.
I don't know that I know what a chinchilla is, but anyway.
Bigger hamster.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
We have a dog in Xavier, so that's fun.
Delilah, I want to make sure we get you in here every so often. Have you been around, rooms that had pets in them last year? Well, why don't you tell the folks where you lived last year too?
Yeah, so during my first year at JWU, I actually lived on the ground floor of Harborview. So some of my neighbors did have pets. So basically, if you are going to bring a pet, like as I mentioned before about the documentation, you're also going to be given I think it's like a sign they put in front of the door to indicate that there is an animal in that room. I've also met some of my neighbors with their pets and everything. So that's definitely a good thing to have, just so like that way, like you know what's going on around you.
Cool. So Caitlin, can you speak a little bit to what type of communication went out to students as far as, moving in? And again, we talked about this early on, how process is very different than it has been last year. And also, how's the hall staff been prepped as far as how to welcome students and things like that?
Yeah, so it is, right, last year we moved all 3,500 students in on one day. And this year they're spaced out over kind of the course of 3 weeks. So there might be 2 one day, 2 the next day. So it's kind of a trickling in. And so this year, all students need to go to their building address. So if that's south, it's 6 Washington Ave. And then go to the front desk of their building, and someone will be there to check them in and give them their key and give them their laundry card if that's something that their building would need. There is not a lot of campus signage. Some of the things in regards to like the down city space, right? Because we are in the middle of the city, we can't kind of walk around the city and post signage. So there are, you really just have to go to the address of the building and all that information. I think actually you can just like Google Xavier Hall, Johnson and Wales, and it will give you 60 Broad Street. Or those addresses are on our website. So for those students that already arrived, some students had food delivered directly to their hall, and then there's also been a food truck system that has been set up this week and next week, so students can kind of go out to these different food truck places and pick up a whole bunch of food for several days' time.
Okay. So Susan, I hope that's helpful. It sounds like your son is here already, so hopefully everything's going well. You know, I can't say for certain that this was the case, but he may have received information via email, and you know, we can't tell you how often students say, "Oh, I didn't know," because they don't check their email, especially their Johnson Wales email. So
yeah, but if there's specific needs, Susan, or you would like us to reach out to your student to make sure they're okay, please feel free to send me an email, and I'd be glad to pass it on to the hall staff.
Awesome. How about activities that are happening right now? I mean, it's quarantine, so you know, I know on the one hand we want them to be careful and all, but what is happening right now as far as these students who are here, so that they're not feeling so isolated?
Yeah, so I mean, really, right, the general policies now are that we're asking students to remain primarily in their room, maybe go outside for a walk, but wear a mask and stay away from others. So you know, they can go outside and talk to people, but they should be still 6 feet apart and wearing a mask. Like I mentioned before, we do have some RA programs that are happening. I think you guys have student involvement and leadership is doing virtual trivia on Thursday nights. I'm not sure if there's other events that office has publicized. But really, unfortunately, it's a time to kind of make sure they're healthy and hang out. You know, I recommend to students to call family members. I mean, read or find kind of some hobbies to do by themselves, because unfortunately we want everybody to kind of stay by themselves. So if they are ill, we are not sharing any germs.
Right. Delilah, is there anything more that you've been sharing with students during OT meetings as far as getting involved virtually?
Yes, so during my OT meetings, I do highly encourage everyone to attend the virtual events. Although under these circumstances, you know, it's really great to like attend these trivia events. I've done it so many times. It's actually really fun because you get to meet everyone and you get to have like a little laugh there and there. And, you know, it does get a little intense with the questions, but hey, we're all in for the fun. Not only that, but also like, you know, brings connection, even though like we're doing stuff virtually, but you know, it's still like another form of connection. So you can definitely check it out on the Involvement Network. And I will also provide, so like what Kara did with the Instagram handle for JWU PVD Involved. There will be any announcements or updates in regards to any virtual events that will be coming up during the year. And once you do go on that Instagram page, you can just simply click on the link and then it'll just lead you to the Involvement Network. Or you can just simply go on the Involvement Network by logging into JWU Link, and you click on the Involvement Network tab, and then it'll just take you straight there.
Nice, Delilah. Yeah, I did the Disney trivia that Delilah was also on a couple of weeks ago, and we had a ball with that. I mean, we were singing the Disney tunes and getting it all done, so that was a lot of fun. Carol, question about where do they submit photos for IDs? I'm assuming you're asking there. Students need to email their photo in. There are definitely directions in the online orientation module, and I believe students should have received an email as well, again, to their Johnson Wales email with instructions on how to get that done. So ask your student to either look back through the orientation module. You could also look through the family one and see that as well. Or search their Johnson Wales email to find the link directly to submitting their photos.
The email is providenceids@jw.edu.
That was easy.
I've only said it about 5 times in the last week, so.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think they asked for things like a clear face shot, nothing too much in the background, that type of stuff. So, and then Fred and Dina are asking, when do students receive their ID and meal cards, which actually are one and of the same. Do you want to address that?
Yeah, so as soon as, I know ID services over the past couple weeks have like made a whole bunch of them, and then we've separated them out and brought them to the halls. And as soon as we get them, if your student has already arrived, we've been calling them down from their room and giving them to them. But if your student hasn't, then they should be there when they arrive. So I know we have stacks of IDs kind of waiting for students to arrive to hand out.
Perfect. And Susan, I see your new note here about reaching out. Absolutely, reach out to Res Life if you need to. I'm glad that you've connected with Nicole Hebert. She's an awesome resource. And counseling services is another area. So really for any of you, anytime if you're concerned that your students are struggling with isolation and things like that, there are plenty of people here who are eager to help them. So definitely let's make sure that you talk with some more folks there. Let's see, Tracy. Oh, then this came up on our social media too. I saw this, but as far as fold up chairs, like if somebody wants to go sit out on Gaby Commons or out on the Wildcat green space, can they bring chairs, like video game chairs or a beach chair, that type of thing?
Yeah, our general policy is that we ask that you not bring a lot of additional furniture. Some due to exiting a room in a timely fashion, right? We don't want the room to be so clogged that they can't get the door open if there's a fire or an emergency. But also we don't want to bring in a lot of outside cloth. So you know, like no futons or comfy chairs and things like that. You know, little bookshelves or, you know, your statement says bungee chairs, that's fine. Rhode Island has a very strict fire code in regards to kind of a community living setting. So we're not allowed a lot of those extra things that potentially would be flammable.
Okay. So as far as students now, you know, once they check in, I think I know the answer to this, but I really want you to address it, Caitlin. If they were to go home for a night or go out, do they have to sign in and out, that type of thing?
Yeah, so no, students, you know, once they move in, if they're not in the quarantine group, they are able to come and go as they please. We ask all students to take precautions regardless if they're going home or off campus to visit friends, right? Limit the amount of people that they're interacting with and potentially sharing germs with, because if they bring it back to the building, then they're potentially, you know, impacting the rest of the community. So we need everybody to kind of pitch in and, you know, wear a mask, wash their hands, regardless of where they are on or off campus. If your student is going home and you're coming from a state that still has a 5% infection rate or higher, when they come back to campus, they would have to quarantine. And so I would recommend students not going home in that kind of sense, because then they potentially wouldn't be able to go to class and they would have to re-quarantine.
Okay. Question about mail. How do we send it, or how do they receive mail and packages?
Yeah, all mail and packages will go directly to the student's building, and when they check in, they actually receive a little mail key for the mailbox, and then all packages will go to the front desk. We log every package that we get, and then we send students an email saying, hey, you've got a package, come pick it up between certain hours. So mail is open. I know people have already started to ship us their bedding and things like that in advance. So we are open and ready. And if you end up putting like the wrong address on it and it lands at the wrong hall, that hall will still hold on to the package as long as they're a student that's living on campus and say, oh, hey, your package is over at East Hall instead of South, right? So we will let them know. We won't just kind of send it back. So we will find them.
Awesome. And I'm glad you said that it is already happening. Mail delivery is happening on campus already, which I've seen that come up in social media as well. Delilah, did you ever get any care packages from home? What did you like getting in a care package?
I've definitely gotten care packages from my mom, especially. She would often like just mail me stuff from Walmart, just like in case if I need anything. I will also mention too, like with the mail, they definitely do have a sign like what the address is and everything. When I was living in Harborview, when you first enter the building, there is a big sign that tells you the address and everything, and it also gives you instructions on how to put it on. Let's say like you order a package from Amazon, you are then able to put in your name, your room number, where do you want it delivered, and everything. But if you do have any questions or concerns in regards to that, you can always talk to like the DA or like the FDM, and they'll definitely help you with that. And as what Caitlin mentioned too, with the emails, you will get an email definitely. I do highly encourage everyone to definitely download the Outlook app just because we mainly use that for the school. And it's also good to like on the go. So let's say you do get a package and let's say you're out, at least you know like, hey, I got a package. So now you know when you get back to the room, you can always pick it up.
That was such helpful information. And here I was wondering if you're getting fresh homemade cookies from homemade care packages.
Well, and can I kind of go off what Delilah said?
Yeah, please do.
And DAs and FDM, so those are our desk assistants and our front desk managers. And so we have resident assistants in the building that live there, but we also have front desk managers that work 20 hours a week at the front desk. So your students can use, engage, talk with kind of any of them. And desk assistants is actually our federal work study position, and it's about 12 hours a week, and they would sit at the desk and assist with checking IDs or making sure people are following policies, and just that general being kind of a customer service agent for the front desk. So that's an option if your student was awarded federal work study money.
Great. All right, so Samantha's asking if, we happen to have 2 students in the same room, or I don't know if we have any rooms with more than 2 students, but what happens if one of them gets sick? Maybe you could speak to that.
Yeah, so we ask that all students every day take the daily symptom checker. All staff have to do it as well, faculty, if they're coming to campus. And so in that daily symptom checker, it's asking you, do you have a fever? Have you been in contact with anybody that you know is tested positive for COVID-19? Do you have any of these symptoms? If they don't have any of those things, they're going to get a green check mark and they're good to go. But if they check one of those boxes, I have a headache and I have a fever, they're going to get a red X. And that red X is then going to instruct them to talk to health services. And then health services will work with them on an individual basis to decide, do we need to relocate them? Do we need to get them testing? Do we need whatever next step would need to be? If someone is sick and they are deemed positive with COVID, they would be relocated and we would place them in kind of isolation until they are kind of released in terms of health services requirements.
Thank you. Jim is asking, I don't know, I'm not sure the answer on this. I don't know if you know, Caitlin, but when do the dining halls officially open for students who are not quarantining?
Yeah, so 3 dining facilities are currently open right now. And as far as I know, something might change, but right now those will be the 3 that are open, I think, until the 30th of August. So a lot of Starbucks on Harborside is open, what they're calling Red Sauce and More, which is pizza, pasta, but also a lot of different to-go meals and salads and fruit and breakfast options. Excuse me. And then downtown right now is the Clock Tower Lounge, which is kind of similar to the Red Sauce and More option. It's a little market. You can get several different things and take it with you back to your room. So that's currently what's available.
And students can go into those places to get things?
Yep, if they're not quarantined, they can go into those spaces.
Okay. Are students in quarantine allowed to wash their clothes, and where would they do that? Are the laundry in the buildings accessible?
Yeah, all the buildings have laundry units either on the floor, or some of them have one giant room down in the basement. We just ask that they're cautious, right? They're wearing a mask outside their room. They wipe down the machines. We just want to make sure that we're not spreading any potential germs. But yep, you're welcome to use the washing machine.
Perfect. So Lori, I see your question and your plea here. And I don't know if everyone can see this, but I wish we could give you that reassurance. I just don't know. Lori's asking, can we give reassurance that students won't be sent home next week because of COVID? And I recognize what you're acknowledging here or referencing about UNC and Notre Dame. Yeah, we are smaller, and we're certainly taking steps that we hope are going to, keep the community healthy, and we're really asking students to do their part to help out with this. But I don't know that anyone can make assurances about anything right now. I don't know if you have anything to add, Caitlin.
Yeah, I would say one positive thing that I like to think about is that we did have 6 weeks of summer in-person lab classes with just shy of 600 students. And about just under 400 of them lived on campus with us in apartments together. So they were sharing spaces, and we had an incredibly successful summer. So my hope is that that is foreboding our fall, and we will have a similar experience. You're right, we do have less students on campus. Really only those that are on campus are the ones that might be going to class or a lab. So there's just less people to kind of interact with. So I think we're all hoping for a very successful fall like the summer was.
For sure, and that's such a good point about summer. So Lori, we're hoping just like you are. Carol's asking about underbed storage, the height. I mean, I don't know if it's standard across the entire campus. Or...
I probably should measure this one day, but I tend to guess a little. It is just about 3 feet tall underneath the beds. Might be a little shorter than that. They are extra long twin beds, so extra long twin is about 80 inches in terms of a mattress, and then I think it's just shy of 40 inches wide. So it is a pretty big open space under the bed for, luggage or storage bins or whichever you might want.
Delilah, did you maximize that underbed space for storage? And what kind of things did you use?
I definitely utilize the underbed. I use that when I purchased my trunk. That's where I store like my personal items. I also put like my luggage in there too, along with my laundry basket and my multi-surge plug, just so like I'm able to like plug in like my computer and charge my laptop and everything, and my cell phone and everything. So that's really great to do. I will definitely say that it's also great to keep like the drawers underneath just because of space and everything. Sometimes it is a little high. I was not able to get on the bed, so I had to use my desk chair to get on. But I was also told too that you can talk with maintenance, or I think it's safety and security, in regards to like fixing the height. So if you do feel like you need to do that, you can definitely get into contact with them. And I will also say too, like just try like be able to maintain it like as frequently as possible, just so like you don't have to collect dust, and it'll be really clean by the time you do have to move out.
Thank you for that. And I think the students this fall especially are going to have a lot of area for storage because
Yes.
just because of the nature of the capacities in the room. So.
Mm-hmm.
Jim's question about clubs, will clubs meet in person at all, especially culinary labs that are more hands-on? So speaking from the student engagement perspective on that, we are encouraging virtual meetings, especially for the fall. As of right now, the state has restrictions on the number of people that can be together. So we are still encouraging clubs to schedule events and whatnot. We have members of our staff who are meeting, who will meet virtually with students and discuss their options. The culinary clubs, oh gosh, I'm trying to recall what is happening with that. You could reach out to, maybe Kara can put the phone number for student engagement in there. And Jim, if you don't mind, maybe you could reach out to Lindsay and get a better understanding of what's happening with the culinary clubs, because I know that they are a different nature there. So as soon as we can get students together, believe me, that is what we want to do. And we are looking at some things like, maybe movies and things like that, where we can make sure students are appropriately physically distanced and whatnot. We're being very creative, and everything that we're doing so far seems to be being received really well. So, all right, when moving in, can we leave our car parked near the dorm for the hour, or do we have to unload and move the car? Specifically wondering about McNulty.
Yeah, so most of our down city halls sit right on city streets. So when you arrive, depending on what day you arrive on, Sundays it's free parking, but otherwise the rest of the day there are meters kind of around all of the downtown buildings. So you'll want to pay like $2, I think. It gives you like 2 hours of parking. Campus safety, from what I saw last week, they have been opening our staff and faculty lot, so you could probably unload on the street and then pull over there. You really only have an hour to move your student in, and then we asked all external guests to leave and allow us to kind of get the year going. So there won't be a lot of need for extra time outside of that hour.
Do you have any feedback yet, Caitlin, from families, or have you been hearing from anyone? How is the hour working out for folks?
I think okay. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of data to assess it by, because the past couple of weeks it's been like one person has showed up for 2 hours. So if they took a few extra minutes, we were forgiving and just reminded them, you know, you've been here over an hour, please leave. So I think next week when we have more people, we will have to be more strict with that hour, because we don't want a ton of people coming and going from the building at the same time.
Okay. Samantha's asking, if a student is assigned to a room, is there a possibility that it would be changed?
As of this point, we really haven't been doing any more room changes or moves. And so whatever room your student has currently should be the room that they are moving into.
Okay. That daily symptom checker, is it required for students? And I'm trying to remember what Kathy Rondo said a couple of weeks ago.
Yep, required. And we will ask your student when they check in, we will ask for the green check before we give them their keys and let them in the building as well.
Okay, and I know some of the faculty might ask to see that check mark when they're walking into class as well.
Yep.
Samantha's asking, what type of laundry detergent is recommended? Heard that pods may not be the best choice.
Most of our washing machines are front loading washing machines. So I think people have used pods in the past, but what I have heard kind of anecdotally is that they can get stuck in clothes and then not disperse well and then physically wash clothes. And I don't know if they stain if they get really stuck on a piece of clothing. I'm not really sure. So I think that has been the concern in the past. I don't know if that happens to everyone, if that's just a full load, but that has been kind of the anecdotal information I've heard in the past.
How about you, Delilah? Student's perspective, what do you use to wash your clothes?
I use Tide, but I use the Tide Max because I need to get most of my stains off my chef coats and everything. I didn't use Tide Pods just because of the machines in Harborview, like you weren't able to use Tide Pods. But I will say that I highly recommend getting like a big bottle of like a thing of Tide, just because like you can just measure it and you honestly don't even need a lot. And I would say for bleach-wise, definitely use Clorox, the powder one especially. But if it says the color boosted, that's the best one to use, especially because now they're changing the uniforms to embroidery. So that way it won't mess up the color with the logo and the student's name as well. I've also stored that underneath my bed and everything. It was easy storage. But yeah, you can definitely do that. And I think you can also use dry sheets too in the I think it was in the dryers, and I've definitely seen students do that too. So another thing I will say keep an eye on is when you're using the dryers, especially sometimes there is like those little dust balls by the front of like when you open the thing. So just like keep that in mind, so that way like when your student does take out their clothes, there won't be like dust attached to their clothing as well.
Thank you for that helpful info. I think sometimes students too might be tempted to overpack those machines, like put 3 loads worth into one machine, and then, you know, the pod's not going to be able to move.
Well either when you do that, yeah.
All right. Delete is asking, do students need documentation to go to the dining halls? This is for students who are not quarantining, other than your school ID.
That would be a question specifically for dining. I'm not sure. I doubt it. I mean, right now, the only students that are really here are either our students that were already here for summer or our resident assistants, and then kind of the quarantine group. So dining services is working directly with the quarantine students, so they know who they are. So my assumption is that they would know who's coming and going from inside the facilities.
And quite frankly, they shouldn't even be able to access the buildings if they don't have a JWU ID. So that's how we get in and out of buildings on campus. Delilah, what is a day like in the life of a culinary student or students in general? So you've talked about culinary a little bit, but what would you say to this?
Honestly, I wake up, I get dressed, I go to class. It's honestly really fun. I get excited every time I go to lab just because there's always something new every day going on. It's just honestly the best thing. So fun fact, I actually did go attend to a vocational high school before I went to my previous college. So I went to a vocational high school. I did culinary arts, and when I went to college afterwards, it was just completely different, just because they go more into depth with culinary arts. They do teach you what it is like to be in the actual industry, and they do push you to be the best, and it's honestly the best thing. And I will also say too, like, maybe like, try to get close with your chef, or maybe stay connected with them, just because, you never know. They can always help you with your future careers, and it's just great to network with everyone too. But yeah.
What about general student stuff, not culinary specific?
It's also very exciting too, just because, again, like every day is a new day, and like you never know what you expect every day. I get very excited, especially when I go to my academic classes, because, I get to see my friends in the hallways, but also I'm learning too, and it's just really fun. And once I'm done with my classes, I just go on with my day. Like, I would just go back to my room, I'll do my homework, and maybe relax and hang out with my roommates or my other friends. And sometimes I do get together with my friends, do like study groups or do homework or sometimes projects. I've actually stayed up until 4 o'clock in the morning just to finish a project. But hey, it happens. But yeah.
I have to ask you real quickly, when you started, did you get out there and try all the different dining locations? And tell us what else you're involved in besides O-Team, if anything.
So dining hall wise, yes, I have tried all of them. I think it's really great. Getting involved, so besides New Student Orientation, I'm also involved with the JWU Pep Band, the Club of Culinary Excellence. I actually did just sign up recently for the Cooking Asia Club, and also the Sophomore Club as well. It's really great to get involved on campus, just because, again, networking, but also, maybe you'd like to get your feet wet and let's see how things go from there. And maybe you'll be able to like find yourself, and let's see what your interests and everything for your future.
Awesome. That was so well said. And I think a lot of what you said is you were talking about getting to know your chef instructors and whatnot, but that really applies to students regardless of their major, to get to know your faculty, explore positions, leadership positions like O-Team, like RA, or things in Res Life. It's going to go a long way, and really exploring the whole campus as well. Don't just eat at if you live in Snowden, don't eat just at Snowden. Check out the options at Harborside as well. So, all right, thanks. Jenna is asking, if a student doesn't have a roommate as of right now, how likely are they to get one?
So it depends on their type of room. So if they've selected a room that will be a double this fall, they might get one. If we have, some new students that still don't have spaces that we still need to assign a room to. But we're also at this point, especially because students have already started to arrive to quarantine, we're trying to not add them to rooms. We're trying to give them maybe a space by themselves so we don't have more kind of crossover with students. Potentially in the spring, depending on kind of where this virus takes us. If we are able to invite more students back in the spring and your student is in a room that potentially could be a double, they might get a roommate in the spring, but that is all up in the air.
I hope we're able to bring more students back, for sure. Diane, so after the 1 hour move-in, can students go out with their folks, maybe to the store to purchase things, or go out to eat, as long as the family doesn't go back in the dorm?
Yes and yes. We just ask that you would follow the Rhode Island, and or if you venture into Massachusetts, kind of their general state policies and distancing and mask wearing.
Great. Carol is asking an interesting question here. Maybe we'll let Delilah give her opinion first. Is it better to walk from Harborview to Harborside or take the bus?
I would definitely say take the bus. But let's say like you do miss the bus or anything, I would definitely say walk. Just because like I would say walking more just because you'll be able to like, familiarize yourself with the area. It's really great. Sometimes in the morning I will walk to like class, or maybe if something's going on early in the morning. It's actually really beautiful when you see the sunset, especially. I loved it a lot. It was like the best part of the day. And also like you get like your daily steps. But I would definitely say walking more, but again, it all depends on your class and everything. And if anything ever happens, I would just result to that. And honestly, not that far from the Harborside campus. It's like maybe like 2 blocks up, and then you just make a right, and then you're just going down the hill and everything.
Yeah, it might depend on the weather. Might, like you said, I think from Harborview to campus, it's pretty much downhill. So if you want to avoid that hill on the way back, but
Maybe like a 7-minute walk.
yeah, Amanda, the director of campus dining, she loves letting people know that she does that. And I think she tries to do it in like 7 minutes or less. So it is a nice walk if a person is not pressed for time. Definitely enjoy it on a nice day, especially. Shalit is asking about the bus schedule. Are they running a regular schedule right now?
So right now they're running about every half an hour, whether that's from Gaby to Harborside or Cove and Renaissance, which are our apartment buildings that are a little outside the downtown area. Pretty much it's about every half an hour kind of across campus and across the city.
And I think the schedule will change once classes start.
Yeah, the current schedule only goes until I think August 28th. So kind of the end of next week. And then transportation will publish a new schedule.
Okay, and then make sure, folks, make sure your students have the JWU mobile app. I believe they can access the bus schedule right on that. So, wow, we have gone through all the questions. Go us. If there's nothing else, we will get ready to say goodnight. But again, just encourage your students to, oh, somebody did get a.
I have a couple things I could mention too, once we get to this question.
Oh, Delilah, do students use umbrellas? Is that a cool thing for college students or not?
Yes, it's
Smart
okay to
thing.
use an
Let's not
umbrella.
worry about cool. Is it smart? Go ahead.
Yes, you can use an umbrella. It's highly recommended just because you never know what the weather's going to be like. So definitely use an umbrella. Well, let me ask you this. Does the school offer any like plastic bags for like umbrellas, or would the students have to bring like their own covering just so like the wet, because the rain?
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen them anywhere on campus, so I'd probably say no. Yeah. It is windy, so sometimes on the Harborside campus, there's a nice breeze going with your umbrella.
Yeah, true. Good point. I'm lucky if I got my kids to wear sweatshirts and stuff, so I never attempted for the umbrella, but. All right, Caitlin, go ahead. Anything you want to share?
Yeah, just a couple things that I think people typically ask about is the microfridge units, which are all in the rooms that students can rent. Again, you don't have to rent them. You can bring your own fridge. If you want a microwave in your room, though, it has to be the microwave and refrigerator combination. So there is one in the room already when you arrive, but if you would like to rent it, you have to go to mymicrofridge.com. And then just a general list of things to bring or not bring. If you go to our Living on Campus, JW /Providence, there's like a packing list. And there's also what we call our guide to living on campus. And that will list things to not bring as well. So curtains, toasters, other things, candles, incense, things like that. So those are just good tips as you're packing, things to just leave at home as well.
Okay. 2 questions did come in quickly. Other than the JWU mobile app, are there any other apps that students should download? I mean, the mobile app's definitely the big one. Anything else, Delilah, that you recommend?
So I do highly recommend that the students download what's called the Blackboard app. I'll definitely show you. This is actually the logo. So this is the Blackboard. And then there is another app that we utilize. It's called the Get app. So this is what the Get app looks like. So basically the Get app is just like you'll be able to like track your meal swipes and also your flex dollars. Flex dollars is just like a set of money that the students will be receiving per term. It will get like renewed every term. So when I first came to JWU, I got like a set of like $200, and I was able to utilize it until the end of the term. So it's really great to utilize it just because you want to keep track on how much money you're spending on campus, and also with meal swipes too. It's also a great way to use it because we do get a maximum of 3 swipes per day. And sometimes I do tend to utilize all my swipes, so it's great to utilize it. And also depending on the meal plan too, like how many days you're utilizing it. Another app too I would recommend, like I mentioned earlier in the meeting, was the Outlook app, just because it's like another mail app. So this is what it looks like. So like I mentioned too, if you're on the go, you know, you can always receive your emails and you know what's going on with your classes in regards to your academic, like, you know, like registration holds or any financial holds you might have. But it's honestly really great to use. And yeah, pretty much.
I would say a perk of the Get app, which I think they started last year, is that you can actually order food through it. And so you can order it and then either go pick it up. I actually think through the Get app, they're allowing, there's also some like general personal amenities. We do have a couple of little small markets on campus, so you can order, I don't know, toilet paper or some random things for your room through the Get app. And so if you're missing stuff and you need stuff last minute, we do have that as a resource on campus.
And I know families can add money. Some families like to add money to their students, like if they run out of flex dollars, for instance, that can be done through the Get app too. I know Amanda usually talks about that. So good advice, Delilah. Thank you. Samantha, when will students know where their classes are going to be? So they may be seeing some of that now if they can find their schedule on JWU Link under the academics tab. If it's not there yet, I'm pretty sure we usually advise them to check like a day or two before classes start. And that's when the exact building and location will be identified. Of course, some classes, you know, are happening remotely. So I think that's indicated on the schedule by this point as well. Diane, size of showers in the dorm room. Yeah, we've seen that on the social media as far as what size shower curtain, Caitlin, people bring.
Yeah,
Or
so
do they even need to?
Yeah, so if your student is living in Imperial Hall in a private room with a private bathroom, Snowden Hall or McNulty Hall, those are all tall, skinny shower stalls. So you're going to want to buy, I don't know the actual height. It's a more narrow shower curtain versus a traditional maybe home tub. If your student is in Harborview, all of those rooms have bathtubs. So you're going to buy kind of the more square traditional home shower curtain.
Okay. Info on the Get app, is that I don't have it, but can they just look in the App Store to find that or not? And I don't know what's in the chat. Did Kara put anything there about that? If not, maybe we can put something in there. But yeah, I think if you just look in the App Store, you'll be able to find that. Trash disposal and recycling. Yeah,
so depending on the hall, McNulty and Snowden downtown are, you know, tall 7-story buildings, so they actually have trash chutes. So each floor has got a trash room with a trash chute in it. And then there are spaces in the trash rooms for recycling. Some halls, like South Hall, has like a giant trash room and recycling bins in one room on one floor. So every building's a little different, but each space has that. When you're arriving for the next week or so, we are asking that you use the dumpsters outside for your trash, just because people bring a lot of stuff and boxes and stuff they need to throw out, and so it fills up the trash rooms really quickly. So there's giant dumpsters outside that you're going to be asked to use for the next week or so.
Great. How about the halls that have community or common bathrooms? How often are those cleaned?
At least daily. We've had students, you know, that moved in last week, so at least daily. And if there's any issues, or if your student is feeling like, oh, this isn't up to snuff or whatever they might need, reach out. We will definitely work with our cleaning company and, you know, address any issues that might be happening.
Tracy, we see your question about runs to Target or Walmart with the JWU buses. Denise from Transportation was with us a few weeks back, and she announced that they are scheduling those, I believe she said once monthly, making a run to a local shopping area shopping center in the area. So definitely tell your student to be on the lookout for that. And if they need it, to actually participate, because we've tried things like this in the past and a lot of people don't take advantage of it. So we want to continue to offer this. So yeah, and transportation can be the area to reach out to if you have more questions about that. Jim's asking about the parking pass, if it's been purchased, where and when can you get them? Good question. I think that has come up before. Anyone know the specifics on that?
Yeah, you purchase it online through the transportation website, parking. And I believe you have to go pick it up from the Student Services Center. That or Campus Safety. I would check the website. Campus Safety will not be ticketing and enforcing parking until the 7th of September. So you do have some time if you haven't paid for it or picked it up yet. Your student has some time.
Perfect. And Eva's asking, if all goes well with the virus, will students be able to change their room assignments for the spring semester?
Good question. I do not know. I don't think we have started to try to plan for the spring just because the virus has been so unknown in our lives. So I would ask maybe check back a little later in the fall with us.
And similar to that, room selection for the following year, when that usually kicks in, when right after the holidays, or?
Yeah, so typically November-ish is when we start to ask students to complete an application, just so we know that they're interested. And then typically April time is when our upperclassmen are then issued a day and time to pick their room, and then they can go in and select their room for the following year.
Great. All right, folks. Well, I think we covered a lot of information tonight, and continue to reach out to any of our departments if additional questions come up. This is recorded. If you missed anything early on, the recording will be on our orientation web page, the family page, hopefully tomorrow. Delilah, any parting words of advice for families as they get ready to send their students off to JWU?
I would definitely say just know that they are attending JWU for not only for success, but also to have fun as well. I know it might be hard to, not see them every day, but just know that they'll be in great hands. And hey, hopefully we will see you all during the fall semester and hopefully the spring semester as well.
Excellent. Caitlin, anything else? Last minute thoughts?
Do you want me to answer a question?
Oh, is there one? Oh, yeah. I closed my Q&A, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so South Hall does not have a community kitchen, unfortunately. Other buildings, McNulty Hall and Imperial Hall, are two residential buildings that have community kitchens. So sad news. No, I was just going to say, right, it's definitely going to be a different year than I think anybody could have anticipated. And so we are all here and want it to be successful and positive and work through whatever challenges. So again, have your student reach out, speak up. We are here and want to do our best to support them, however that might be.
For sure. And I just want to thank all of the families who have joined us for these Zoom sessions over the last 7 weeks. Kara, unmute yourself. You're like this mysterious person we keep talking about in the background. Here I am putting her on the spot. Here she is. But yeah, we thank you for joining us. Hope you have found this information to be helpful. It won't end just because orientation is ending. We'll probably, schedule things once the academic year starts, where we'll open it up to the entire family population again. So watch for the monthly family newsletter that will go out starting in, I think, the second week of September. Follow our social media if you're on there, and if not, you might want to get involved with that. But yeah, it's been fun spending Wednesday evenings with you. We wish you all the best, anyone who hasn't done the move-in yet, and all the best to your students as they get started. We are all hoping for a great year, and stay well. So thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Delilah.